Lucy. I'm one of the members of the Children and Young People Student Nurse Network.
My name is Jamie Jewitt, and most commonly known off of Love Island, where I met my girlfriend Camilla in season 3, 2017, and I now have a little daughter called Nell, who's 7.5, almost 8 months old. So a father, and loving it.
Mental health conditions you've suffered from?
I've been in and out of depression probably in my early 20s. It sort of started. I used to live abroad and did a job that I don't know if I can really blame it on my job, to be honest, but I've definitely suffered with depression, suffered with I'd say sort of started from a lack of direction and lack of want for anything, and luckily I'm out the back end of that now, and a happy parent.
Being like recent campaigns around like men's mental health and like fathers' mental health and stuff, do you think that's like made a difference to like fathers and like men, and is like more open now about the mental health, would you say?
You mean in the conversation, having the conversation about it? Yeah. I think that's made a difference. Yeah, definitely. I think mental health up until now is a little misunderstood. I can say when I was depressed, I just sort of didn't really know. Like I've just said then, I still don't really know what to put it down to. I can definitely look back in hindsight and see certain problems with myself and certain ways of thinking that really had a detrimental effect on my life, and sort of slipped into the hole that once you're in is very, very difficult to get out of. And I think a big part of the reason why that happened was because I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know if it was normal. I didn't know if my thoughts were normal. I didn't know if, I didn't really know where to get help or how to alleviate those kinds of negative thought processes. And I think now the conversations had, it's made people really realise that one of the biggest ways to stop those things happening is to talk about it. I should have spoke to my friends. I should have kept. I think the first thing to happen when you get depressed, or for me at least, I can say from my experience, was you alienate the people closest to you. You alienate yourself from everybody. You sort of become a recluse. And I feel like that's why it's a vicious circle, and it's once you're in it's a hole. Once you get into it, it's very difficult to get out, because when you don't go and see people and you don't speak, it makes you feel even more miserable and lonely. We're social beings. We're supposed to speak to people. Relationships, and strong relationships, are massively important to us as beings, as a species. And the first thing you do is cut those off when you're depressed. And now this conversation has made it more common knowledge that those things are important, that relationships are important, that keeping them healthy is the most important thing. I definitely think it's a huge benefit.
Touched on it briefly, but would you think becoming a father changed any like preconceptions you've had about mental health, or like your understanding about it now? You're a father.
I wouldn't say becoming a parent has changed my view on it. It's definitely something I've worked on. Actually, saying that, knowing that I was going to be a parent, as soon as I found out I was going to become a dad, it definitely made me work on certain things. Like I really, really wanted to get full understanding over what happened to me and why I felt that way, just so I can manage and make sure it never happens again. But in terms of the becoming a father, it hasn't really changed my view on mental health. It's not taught me anything I didn't know. It's just made it much, much more important that I fully understand it, just in case I need to. I mean, let's face it, like we're all products of our environment. We learn, we know what we learn, and I think to be a good dad, to be a good parent, I need to make sure I have full understanding over all the important things in life, and I think mental health's one of them. So when it comes to guiding little Nell through life, I have all the tools I can possibly have to do that in the best way. So it's definitely made it increased the importance of everything like that to me.
And Becky, we're both student nurses. And what do you think we can do to help recognise the signs of postnatal depression in fathers? Is there anything you would advise us to necessarily do, or look out for?
Oh God, that's really difficult. And I guess the reason it is difficult is because I know it's quite a common saying now that if somebody had a broken leg or was missing an arm, you can see it, and if somebody's struggling mentally, you can't. people deal with them in different ways. I think you've got people that go quiet and are quite noticeably depressed or down, or don't engage, or sort of reclusive. That can be a sign. But then you've also got the people that have that incredible defense mechanism where they become the most happy and smiley person in the room. So that's a really, really difficult thing to look out for. I think the key part of it is just asking questions, trying to get honest answers, checking in, and being somebody there that they can speak to if they would like to. So I guess all you can really do is keep asking the right questions and keep checking up on people. But yeah, in terms of signs, they're so bloody difficult to know. You know,
so if you're concerned about it, what do you have any advice of how we could broach the subject, especially if they're reluctant to talk to us about it?
Again, there's a very fine line. It's quite a difficult thing as well. You have to just ask how they're going. Do they have any concerns? Have they been feeling positive over negative? I guess if you ask somebody a few questions about what's going on in their life, if a lot of the answers are struggle, or this was hard, or that was tough, or negative connotations, it's kind of sort of an indicator that they're thinking in a negative way. Whereas if if you ask somebody and they say make everything sound positive, then it's very difficult to know if that's just that they're trying to brush it off and not broach the subject. It's such a tough one. I think it's being very, very friendly, calm, and just asking questions about how they are, how they're feeling, what do they think of this, what was their last sort of struggle, and you'll kind of gauge, hopefully get an idea of how they're honestly feeling, and they'll open up if they want to. Yeah,
we've just been through this pandemic, and we've known that fathers are being restricted from attending appointments and passive labour and stuff. How do you think that's affected fathers to be, if they've been stopped from doing certain things?
I don't know. With me, did you say about when we were not allowed into appointments?
Yeah.
I can imagine it would really affect some. I can imagine it can affect some fathers. I think this whole past year has been very difficult because it's such an unusual circumstance, and you have to get used to one thing after another. Many different things you're not allowed to do. So many different. There's such a change to your life where you don't really have an outlet. You don't get those social interactions which are important. So people can be in quite a negative mood anyway. And then when it comes to being a parent or an expecting father, to then be told that you can't really be involved in the key steps leading up to the birth of your child, then all you really get to do is sit at home with your worries and your anxiety about being a dad. And you don't really get to have those moments that are supposed to be the lovely, caring and exciting moments, the scans, the checkups, all of that is all part and parcel of alleviating any stress or building up to that one moment, which again it can be tough because you don't get that. But so I know I'm not saying that from personal experience for me. That's not how it was for me. I did sort of keep a positive outlook, and I understand certain things needed to be done. But yeah, I think it's definitely something to look out for. It's just people are going to be needing a little bit more support because it can make you feel a little bit less involved. Taking up.
I don't know if it's recently, but you've launched this podcast with Marcel and Jewitt. So you can just tell us a bit more about that and why you started it, what it's all about.
Yeah. So funny enough, it happened quite organically. I've known Marcel from my series of Love Island. Jake, I knew from the circuit. I've met him a few times. Since we knew we were having kids, we just sort of chatted a lot over the internet, asked each other sort of bits of advice and any little products you can buy. And we were my agent just said, you guys should do a podcast. You should just have a little chat and see if that would work out. We booked a studio day and we chatted for about an hour and just talked. And it was really interesting. So we all came away from that conversation realizing just how much we needed really enjoyed or had a lot of worries, or how much better we felt just chatting to another two dads about being dads. And it kind of just proved the concept straight away. We just went in there, had a conversation, and really, really loved it. And now we said, let's do this. We're about halfway through the season now, and every single episode we've chatted about, we've broached new subjects, trying to keep it really light-hearted and honest, like three lads in a pub, as if we would. There's still jokes and stuff and everything, all the immaturity you'd expect from dads. Because we can be very immature. We try to keep all of that, keep it honest, keep it light-hearted. But there was obviously the serious and the deeper moments in there as well. And I think the biggest point of that is trying to, like with everything we said about going through lockdown, and obviously our experience as parents was in the pandemic, and it was during lockdown. So we didn't really get a lot of those social interactions, a lot of those moments. It was really, really was something we were really loving the idea of. And we want people to be able to listen to it, and if they're stressed or if they're anxious or if they're worried about being a parent, or if they haven't had the chance to go out there and get advice, or if they haven't asked for it, because it's another thing men don't do, we don't really ask to talk when we should, they can listen to us idiots sit and chat about it and have a joke and say all the mistakes we've made and all the silly things we've done, all the struggles, but then all the positives, and hear us talk about it in a very light-hearted way, all relate to each other, and hopefully it will alleviate any stress that they do have or any anxiety they have about becoming a parent. Because ultimately, it's like everyone will always say, it's such hard work, but it is the most rewarding. But you have to manage your stress, you have to manage your worry, because you'll be fine. The instincts will kick in, and you'll everyone will do great. That's what we want any parent to know. Don't worry, you'll be fine. So
I think you mentioned about bonding in one of your podcast episodes, and like your relationship between like you and the baby. Like, how did you find that during like the first like few weeks of like parenthood? Like, is it what you expected it, or
bonding with the baby?
Yeah.
This is really interesting, because I've spoken to lots of different people, men and women, mothers and women, about bonding with the baby. And I think it's another one of those things that you put a huge expectation on.
Yeah.
Personally, I was so tired once the baby had finally arrived. I mean, Camilla kept telling me I would like sit and nod off in the chair and not even realize it was fine, because we'd been up, and it was probably, I don't know how long we'd been awake. But when I saw the little baby, I was overcome with this incredible sort of feeling of protection and love. But at the same time, I was a little bit confused in that whole moment and shell-shocked. And like, and you hear about this whole love at first sight and thing, but it's 100% true, but it's a hard feeling to explain. So and when I say I was speaking to other people about it, I was even speaking to mums that have said that they were so shell-shocked in that moment. They've looked and felt bad that they didn't just instantly bond in this weird sort of romanticized way of love. But what I will say is, no matter what anyone explains to you about when you have your baby, nothing can ever describe that moment. And then the bond only gets stronger throughout the weeks and the days and the interactions and every little milestone, every time they look in your eyes. All of these little things add up and build up, and it's a really complex and unbelievable thing to go through. But yeah, it's hard to when you say about bonding with the baby, it's hard to just, what does that mean in my head? Like, what moment is bonding? What moment is and I just find, and one of the ladies I spoke to, she said, like, say, it really, really hurt because she felt like she hadn't. Why didn't I bond it with this child? It's like, then after a little while, she realised what bonding meant, and it was so much more of a process. And I don't know, but it's complex, and it's incredible. It's hard to describe, but yeah, it's all part of being a parent. It's the most amazing, strange, and confusing feeling.
So like, if you look at like when you first found out you were going to become a father, like, were there any like concerns or worries you had, and like have they like changed now that you are a father?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing, like I say, what I'm trying to talk about expectations with things, I was over the moon, and you're all excited, and then all of a sudden, and then like, as the days and weeks go past, you sort of You think about everything. Am I ready? Like, am I going to be a good dad? Am I going to get this right? How am I going to do that? Like, and you start to look into things and try and think what's the right way to do this? What's right to do that? How am I underprepared? Am I, like, all of these different things go through your mind. And then obviously Google, books, you look at as many different opinions, as many different bits of advice. You've got this whole sort of concoction of different conflicting advice sometimes in your head. Then the moment comes, and ultimately a lot of that doesn't really matter. Instinct does take over. You will do the right thing. You will love your child, and you'll protect the child, and you'll do your best.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing. It was the difference between how much I worked in my head up to the moment and how different the moment actually was when it got there was quite incredible. And like I think that's why parents struggle so much to explain what it's like to become a parent, because I used to ask everybody when I knew I was becoming a dad, I was like, oh, what's it going to be like?
Yeah.
The moment came and it was so much different to what anyone could explain. And now when someone asks me, I struggle to explain it still. I'm trying to words, and I'm like, but just, all us just get there and you'll know. And yeah.
So I guess, like, you're saying it's hard to explain. Like, do you have any, like, tips or advice that you would offer, like, to new parents or anything that you can think of?
Yeah, and it would all relate to what I was just saying there. Like, you're not gonna ever be able to. Don't put too much expectation on yourself. Don't stress yourself out.
Yeah.
Panic, and it's just so much easier said than done. And again, it's like with every parent. I think we all do the same thing. But yeah, don't put too much stress or expectation or panic about right and wrong or all of these different things, because you're going to stress yourself out over something that once you get there, it'll all fall into place. Like, as long as you're not, just enjoy the ride, and you'll be great, and you'll do a good job, and you'll love it. Yeah, it's sounds like such dud advice, because if I listen to someone say that to me before, I'm like, how can I not? Like,
yeah.
When I'm panic, I want to be a good dad. I want to do everything right. You will do. You'll get everything right. Just give yourself a break.
So I guess we've sort of mentioned it already, but do you have any, like, resources or, like, anything that you could, like, recommend, like, reading up about, or just anything that you found, like, useful in terms of, like, educating yourself about different topics?
I think personally the most valuable, or at least relatable, advice you can find is from family and friends and people directly to you, close to you, that you can speak to about it, because then you get more of a sense of the reality of things. Books and the internet, it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy of something. It's like reading about doing a skydive and then doing it. I don't know. They're just quite detached. Whereas when you have friends and family that have gone through it, and you have someone close to you, and you ask your parents and people that are close, there's some comfortability in that, and that usually tends to relate more to what you feel than any book or Google search can. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just get the help from people around you. Ask people, ask the questions you want. But yeah, just use your resources that are close to you, close relationships. That helps.
So I guess I think I've learned, especially during my placement, like, there's this pressure on, like, families and, like, fathers to be, like, the perfect dad, like the perfect parents. Like, what would you advise them, like, in that situation, if they're putting, like, a lot of pressure on themselves to be, like, the perfect person, like, towards, like, the child and stuff?
I'd say perfection is completely subjective. You'll find when you have a child that one thing that somebody tells you that's recommended won't apply to your situation. That will happen over and over and over again. And therefore, if someone's told you that this is the best way to do something and it doesn't apply to your situation, you can't do that, then you start to feel like, am I doing it wrong then? It's like, no, this is because perfection's subjective. You adapt and you do whatever's right for the situation, and you have your kid's best interest at heart and your relationship, and you and your partner, you do everything that suits you. Like, suits you as a family unit. That's why, again, like, these expectations of perfection and these reading up and trying to get everything right. You never, ever, ever. There is no such thing as getting everything right. It's doing the best you can, adapting, and making sure that you got a healthy, happy baby, and you and your partner are healthy and happy of mind. That's the key, and that comes with not putting that pressure on yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that makes sense.
This is like a bit off topic. Well, I guess do you either like you or Camilla like have any funny parenting stories you'd be willing to share with us?
Funny parenting stories.
Yeah.
Oh God, trying to think. It's so funny because so many things have happened where we've like wet ourselves laughing.
Yeah.
But then again, your days and blend into one, and I'm trying to think. There was plenty of like, especially when she was young, she would, when she was exclusively just breastfeeding, her poo was quite runny, and there was a couple of poo fountain moments, one that flew across the room a good 2 meters. There's plenty of those. Her little, I remember when she would put her down to sleep at night, she made these incredibly strange noises as a baby, and I just sounded so bizarre. And I remember my mum said that I used to make crazy sounds. I sound like a little goat or like some strange little gremlin, which one really panicked us at the beginning, but then like after that it was just, you know, you'd read up on it again and that was completely normal. That was a bit of an odd one. I don't know, just none. I can't think of a standout funny moment really. But yeah, just a lot of poo explosions, a lot of changing, a lot of like a lot of that usual stuff that you hear about.
Like from like the pregnancy to like now, like what's your experience been like with healthcare professionals, and would you say it's like been different to Camilla's? Like has you had like more experience with them, or have you both felt like the same?
With healthcare professionals?
Yeah.
In terms, well, the hospital visits, I wasn't there, so yeah, I didn't have the most interaction. We had our the lady that came to the house after to check up on us was absolutely lovely, and I can't remember what we call that again. She came to the home visits and checked on the baby. Health visitors. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's been great. It really has been. I mean, obviously, like we say, everyone's trying to make the best of a bad situation, and do the best they can during the pandemic. And yeah, I'd say we had all positive experiences from that side of things.
I was just thinking, as a parent myself, I've got a 3 and a 5-year-old, Jamie, so I've been there. I'm further down the road than you. Well, what are you looking forward to the most as little one grows up? Is there anything? I know my dad, my children's dad, loved the baby stage, but was really looking forward to the time when the boys were running around, able to play pirates and knights and get them into rugby and all of those kind of things. Is there anything that you are thinking of as those dad moments coming up that you're kind of looking forward to?
Yeah, it's funny because that sort of goalpost always moves, because the 1 week stage she just sort of laid there and would just cry and sleep, and then you think, oh, I can't wait for the first smile, and the first smile comes and it moves, and you can't. There's so much to be excited about, and I realise how different every day is. But I must say now, I just can't wait to see her running around. Like, just like you say about running, I'm not really thinking about playing games and all that. When I look at her, she just cracks me up sitting there with a little smiling face, and I can't wait till she can run around the house and get up to all sorts of mischief. But I say that now, when it gets to that, I'll be like, why?
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I just can't wait to see her grow into a little person. Not that she isn't a little person, but you know what I mean.
Oh no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Is there anything that kind of, when you're looking towards the future, that's worrying you about raising a child, you know, coming out of a pandemic in the world that we live in now? Anything that, you know, just you could express now for other dads that might be thinking the same thing?
Worries about the world now. I've been quite vocal about social media. That's definitely a worry of mine, but that's quite far in the future. And I don't even know if the social media we know today will even be around then. It'll probably be some weird and wonderful new thing that is to worry about. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of, again, humans are adaptable. We've got to adapt to everything. I wouldn't say there's any one worry. I feel like we're going to do the best job we can and have all the tools we need to make sure there's nothing to worry about, and we can raise her well and make sure she makes the right choices and stuff. That's the dream. So
yeah, like if you notice like any changes in your relationship, not negative ones, but just how you had to learn to, you've got this little person now in your life that solely relies on both of you, and you've got to put away all of your feelings of your needs and focus on baby. But also, I imagine you, just like my husband, would want to look after Camilla as well and help her after having had the baby and all of those kind of things. So how did that kind of change for you?
I mean, it's a massive learning curve. I must say, communication is 100% key. It's kind of, you liken it to, you have this relationship where everything's just sort of, you can go on your dates, you can go and have your time together, you can go and do all of these, have all the fun and all that sort of stuff, and then all of a sudden you've got this huge responsibility. So you're thrown into the most intense work environment, and you've all of a sudden got to what would you say? You have to work together perfectly and 24/7 as a team that you've never actually had to work before. It was just sort of enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
And yeah, and don't get me wrong, it took a little while to adjust. You have to both fall into your roles. Obviously, Cam was breastfeeding, so I can do a lot of the feeding bits. So I was trying to do the housework, and there was definitely times where you'd butt heads, but you just do your very best to sort of, fill each other. While you're doing this, I'll go and do that. And Cam's so good at organising. I think the key here was she'd give me little bits and bobs to do. She had so many things, little jobs written down, organised. She'd have the house run like a well-oiled machine, and I would sort of be like, all right, what am I doing next? What do you want me to do here? What do you want me to do there? But yeah, we just sort of figured it out. It was a learning curve, but communication was the biggest thing. And when we didn't, or if I would ask, sometimes she wouldn't ask for help, or sometimes she'd be like, oh, I don't, wouldn't say a lot, and I'd sort of sit back and be like, okay, I feel like I should do something, and I'd go and clean something or do something else. I'm like, do you need anything? She's like, no, it's fine. And I don't know, it's just, you just have to make sure that you're both on the same page. It takes a little while to get there, but it's just communicate and work out your ways of doing things. But yeah, it's it was tough, but we're there. We're a well-oiled machine now.
Oh, that's great to hear. You mentioned that Camilla breastfed. How did you find that as an experience as dad? Obviously, those that do bottle feeding, they obviously get to share the load a bit. And how did you feel watching Camilla doing all of that? And it's hard work breastfeeding.
It blew my mind how difficult it can be. Obviously, I know it's different for many women. I know some women really, really struggle to the point where they can't breastfeed. Some women find it easier. Camilla was sort of in the middle. She went through a period where she really, really struggled. It was painful, but she just stuck it out, and I just had this unbelievable amount of admiration for her. But as well, I felt completely useless. I would. There were times where I was thinking, oh, we can put her on formula. It's fine. Seeing how much she was struggling, she persevered, and she really wanted to stick to it, and she did. And it was absolutely incredible. And to this day, she's still going. And I will say with Cam, I'm so proud that she did do that, because it got to the point where it became so much easier. She almost crossed this threshold where she was really, really struggled. It was really painful. And then all of a sudden it was easy. It was fine. She'd gotten through that. And then it became a really great thing in her life that she's so glad she'd done, and the bonding moments were all there. And she's obviously, there's a lot of benefits to breastfeeding. It makes it so much easier for her. We didn't have to make up all the bottles. She didn't have to worry about where she is. And she persevered and she got through it. But I was genuinely and completely shocked. I was almost of the stupid mind that, oh, it's natural, it's just, it'll be easy. Like, women are made to breastfeed. So. And I saw it, and I'm like, hat off to every woman out there that breastfeeds, because, wow, it was impressive to see what she stuck out through.
And did you get any kind of support from healthcare professionals with the breastfeeding, or have you accessed anything for kind of moving forward towards is little one, did you say 7 months now? I think
7 months, yeah.
yeah, like
weaning.
weaning advice. Have you had any things like that? Any encounters where maybe you've been able to be involved?
Yeah, we've been weaning her for a month and a half now. She's doing really, really great. There is a book that we used. I can't remember, How to Wean Your Baby, I think it was called, actually. And it's been massively helpful, yeah. But I've loved the weaning experience. It's been great. Cam's, again, she does everything, so she's so well organised. Cam is. She got this book, and we've just sort of followed this book, and Nels takes after me in terms of seems to love every single thing that you can give her to eat. And yeah, she's doing really, really well. But that's been great. That was one of them milestones where you sit and watch her holding her first piece of little finger food or first feeding her something. It's such a strange moment, but it's a real proud, sort of weird feeling. It became so much easier. She almost crossed this threshold where she was really, really struggled. It was really painful, and then all of a sudden it was easy. It was fine. She'd gotten through that, and then it became a really great thing in her life that she's so glad she'd done, and the bonding moments were all there. And she's obviously, there's a lot of benefits to breastfeeding. It makes it so much easier for her. We didn't have to make up all the bottles. She didn't have to worry about where she is. And she persevered and she got through it. But I was genuinely and completely shocked. I was almost of the stupid mind that, oh, it's natural, it'll be easy. Like, women are made to breastfeed. So. And I saw it and I'm like, hat off to every woman out there that breastfeeds, because, wow, it was impressive to see what she stuck out through.
And did you get any kind of support from healthcare professionals with the breastfeeding, or have you accessed anything for kind of moving forward towards is little one, did you say 7 months now? I think
7 months, yeah.
Like weaning advice. Have you had any things like that? Any encounters where maybe you've been able to be involved?
Yeah, we've been weaning her for a month and a half now. She's doing really, really great. There is a book that we used. I can't remember, How to Wean Your Baby, I think it was called, actually. And it's been massively helpful, yeah. But I've loved the weaning experience. It's been great. Cam's, again, she does everything, so she's so well organised. Cam is. She got this book, and we've just sort of followed this book, and Nels takes after me in terms of seems to love every single thing that you can give her to eat. And yeah, she's doing really, really well. But that's been great. That was one of them milestones where you sit and watch her holding her first piece of little finger food or first feeding her something. It's such a strange moment, but it's a real proud, sort of weird feeling.
No, that's great. So we know that obviously you touched on the fact you weren't able to be at some of the appointments during the pandemic, and obviously prior to the pandemic dads could go, but often a lot of the time they wouldn't necessarily go, just because obviously they might be working or looking after other children, things like that. But since with the pandemic, a lot of things have been kind of done by remote video calls and things like that. So mum been in the clinic, and then some services have allowed dad to kind of video in to be part of that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it would have helped you be more involved, or do you think it would benefit other parents moving forward based on what we've learned about the pandemic and how we can include dads more, because you're not always there when healthcare professionals come to visit, like the health visitor, things like that, so that we can get those conversations started and check in with dad like you talked about earlier?
Yeah, I think it would. Us having video calls being videoed in, I didn't realise that was even a thing. But yeah, I think that would have helped. Like I say, I was speaking for different situations. My situation, it was okay. I sort of, kept a positive mindset and sort of got through that. But I definitely think it would benefit a lot of dads, especially the ones that are worried and that are at home and are stressed about becoming a parent. Those interactions with health visitors, with health professionals, bring you a sort of comfort, like a feeling that you're speaking to somebody that knows and it can alleviate a lot of your worry. So I think it is quite important, if there is ways to involve or allow the dad to come along to these things during a situation such as the one we're going through, to make that a priority, I would say. I think it definitely would benefit a lot of different fathers out there.
Great. I don't have any more questions. I don't know if Lucy does.
And I guess, like, the final question, obviously, is, like, out of this whole, like, everything we've talked about, like, is there anything, like, you would say, like, what are, like, the top, like, pieces of information that you'd want, like, to get across? If you just watch, like, this last minute or so, like, is there anything you think that's, like, really important that people know?
In terms of what, just becoming a parent, or becoming a parent?
Just like everything we've, like, discussed today, like, is there anything, like, is there anything that you think, like, the most important thing that people get from this video, or, like, you learn from this video?
Yeah, I guess, again, I think the most important thing, and it is always easier said than done, is don't overthink and stress yourself out about things, and don't panic and worry. And, you know, it's so easy to say, but your instincts will kick in. You'll be fine. Like, you can do it. Think positive, stay positive. You're adaptable, and you can get through anything, and enjoy being a parent. It's a wild ride.
To be at some of the appointments during the pandemic, and obviously prior to the pandemic, dads could go, but often, a lot of the time, they wouldn't necessarily go, just because obviously they might be working or looking after other children, things like that. But since with the pandemic, a lot of things have been kind of done by, you know, remote video calls and things like that. So mum been in the clinic, and then some services have allowed dad to kind of video in to be part of that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it would have helped you be more involved, or do you think it would benefit other parents moving forward, based on what we've learned about the pandemic and how we can include dads more, because you're not always there when healthcare professionals come to visit, like the health visitor, things like that, so that we can get those conversations started and check in with dad like you talked about earlier?
Yeah, I think it would. Having video calls being videoed in, I didn't realise that was even a thing. But yeah, I think that would have helped. Like I say, I was speaking for different situations. My situation, it was okay. I sort of, you know, kept a positive mindset and sort of got through that. But I definitely think it would benefit a lot of dads, especially the ones that are worried and that are at home and are stressed about becoming a parent. Those interactions with health visitors, with health professionals, bring you a sort of comfort, like a feeling that you're speaking to somebody that knows, and it can alleviate a lot of your worry. So I think it is quite important, if there is ways to involve or allow the dad to come along to these things during a situation such as the one we're going through, to make that a priority, I would say. I think it definitely would benefit a lot of different fathers out there.
The final question, obviously, is, like, out of this whole, like, everything we've talked about, like, is there anything, like, you would say, like, what are, like, the top, like, pieces of information that you'd want, like, to get across? If you just watch, like, this last minute or so, like, is there anything you think that's, like, really important that people know?
In terms of what, just becoming a parent, or becoming a parent?
Just like everything we've, like, discussed today, like, is there anything, like, is there anything that you think, like, the most important thing that people get from this video, or, like, you learn from this video?
Yeah, I guess, again, I think the most important thing, and it is always easier said than done, is don't overthink and stress yourself out about things, and don't panic and worry. And, you know, it's so easy to say, but your instincts will kick in. You'll be fine. Like, you can do it. Think positive, stay positive. You're adaptable, and you can get through anything, and enjoy being a parent. It's a wild ride. All you nurses out there are amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, and yeah, thank you.